Another offensive lineman? Do you know how many ways there are to say this big dude is athletic? Or kick slide? There are not that many different ways. This is T. Frank's Film Room. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr, and normally I try to keep T. Frank's Film Room pretty capsulated. Just about the player, just about the film. Don't try to add any context, so these can be timeless, and you can go back and view them, and that sort of idea. That they don't bleed into the circumstances around the film watching. But with Jven Williams, our recruit today that we're taking a look at for the class of 2023, there are some circumstances that, warrant us talking about more than just the film and the player from his junior season film. The first thing is that we're going to hear from somebody else on the film room today, former NFL offensive lineman, while missing graduate himself, in Ross Tucker, who's a friend of the show, and came on a recent edition of the Blue White Illustrated Daily Edition to talk about Jven and his role in Jven's recruitment at the high school level. So we're going to be getting some information about Jven as a player as well from Ross that is specific to what Ross has had with interactions with Jven. That, and this also comes in a massive run in offensive line recruits for the class of 2023. So we'll provide some context of how Jven stacks up against those players, where there are now 4 in this class at this point. So now we're talking about construction of the class, construction of the roster. All that can play into his position projection going forward. So that's what you're getting on T. Frank's Film Room today about Jven Williams. And first off, make sure if you like this, you subscribe to our Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Best way to support the show is to support the show. Subscribe, and that lets everyone know that you like Blue White Illustrated and T. Frank's Film Room. And if you want to go further and you want to make us Facebook official, you could like Blue White Illustrated on Facebook, but what I was thinking is you just like this video, and then that tells everyone, hey, this doesn't suck, and it's not going to suck. So let's get to Jven. Let's introduce you to the 41st overall player in the nation, a huge get for Penn State, and the 4th overall inside lineman in the class of 2023, and the number 1 player in the state of Pennsylvania. So when you throw in Alex Birchmeier into class of 2023, Penn State has 2 of the top 5 players on the interior in 2023. That is a haul for one class on the offensive line. And, that sort of profile as a football player is really impressive. 6'4", 290 pounds, 34+ inch arms. He is a big football player. Now, the frame and the length are a little bit different, so that's where we get into that in just a little bit. So let's take a look at some of the film, some of the strengths and weaknesses. Now, while missing runs the wing T. So what you're going to see is a lot of run blocking here. You're just, and a lot of this is going to be about positional fundamentals. Not a lot of this is considered, I wouldn't consider it to be what Penn State is going to run when he gets to the college level. So we have less of those details of how does he inside zone block? How does he out? Like, these are just the basic building blocks of run blocking. And let's start with the fact that he is just running people off the ball. And you do this consistently. And the way he does this consistently is great pad level. Look how low his profile is. Look at how he uses his arms. That is great flexibility. That's bend and accessing the power in the second half of your body, in the lower half of your body. And at 290 pounds, he is a big, strong athlete. And you can see he keeps his hands tight inside despite having that long frame, and he uses his leverage and power. So these things are consistent. He is able to do this not just because of his size, but because of his technique and his positional basics. I really am encouraged when you see things like this, because it's not just about him being bigger and stronger than everybody else. And that is where a lot of it comes from, because he's 6'4", 290, and some of these kids are probably 220 pounds, but he is consistent with this. You don't always get consistent power and big-time blocks like this if you don't have great technique and fundamentals, and he has all of that, where his striking of the lineman is correct. He keeps his hands inside. He is really good, I'd say, most times of hitting his target. And then, of course, the follow-through, the ability to run his feet and to get that upward momentum because he has a low pad level to start and he doesn't lose contact. So all of these consistency things he has a plus advantage for. Now we're going to keep on with the run blocking and show you some second level blocks. There's a couple of things in here from just getting to the second level like that. That's an important thing you're going to need to be able to do in Penn State's offense, no matter where you line up. He has great athleticism, which we'll get to in a second, but even great athletes sometimes struggle to hit their target at the second level. I see this as a consistent strength of his, as he is athletic and balanced enough to be able to pull, get out in front, and get to the second level and actually make a tangible difference by hitting the target. Athletic people in space can sometimes negate that even good speed or good athleticism from an offensive lineman. He shows consistent ability to get out in front and to make a tangible difference. Sometimes you just miss, and I don't see a lot of that from Jven Williams. So that's another positive in the run blocking category, is he shows a great ability to find and hit the target, and that's another type of athleticism outside of just being big and strong. And when we talk about that, he is not short on being a bit of a freak. 34-plus inch arms, and watch the way he runs. These are the ones where he's getting out in front. He's pulling. He's running. I would be terrified if I were that defensive back, because that guy coming downhill, he hits hard in open space. And as we saw, he is good at targeting players and actually getting these blocks and opening up lanes for the running back on the outside. And this is featured in the Why I'm Missing offense. It's almost like wherever Jven lines up, that's where the ball's going to go. And another part of this is not just the athleticism of doing it the way he does it, of physically hitting these blocks. He's doing this from 4 different positions that I saw him play. Now, if you've watched anything here on T. Frank's Film Room talking about field or boundary on defense, some offenses operate on that type of idea, where the offensive line will flip field and boundary, short side and long side of the field. And Why I'm Missing's wing T does that. So he has experience lining up at both tackles, right-handed and left-handed. He also has experience lining up at guard, right-handed and left-handed, which in the wing T offense, as Ross explained to me on the daily edition earlier this week, in the wing T, that is a different that's a different position, that's a different responsibility. And Jven learned how to do that after the regular season, before the playoffs. So he made a mental adjustment inside a mental adjustment. And that's the amazing thing I see about Jven, is that on the same drive, he might line up a tackle and then line up a guard, depending on the play and what they're trying to get out of it. And you see the way he pulls both on the interior and then to the perimeter, he's a threat to run over 2 or 3 guys. So a lot of the offense was built around, where is Jven, run the ball behind him. At least that's on film. And it's not a bad idea when you have a D1 lineman who's one of the top 50 players in America to go ahead and do that. So those are some really great things that you want to see from a positional flexibility, a mental flexibility, and from a dedication standpoint to put in the work to learn all of that. There were some plays on film. I even saw him be the over tackle, basically line up at tight end in a power formation where they wanted to get extra linemen on one side of the field. When they want somebody to do something complex, he's the guy they plug in. Those are all great signs for his position flexibility going forward, which, as we said, in a class that now has 4 offensive linemen with 2 true interior players, Jven can be a tackle, guard. You can look at him however you want. And when it comes to that, the last question we have is about his pass protection, because in the wing T, you're not really doing that. So here's what we're working with. I'll just show you this, and then we're going to get into some comments from Ross Tucker in just a second. But this is the evidence that we have of his pass blocking ability. There's just not a lot of it. And the athleticism is clearly there, but the technique, the true pass sets, things like that, everything is off play action. Everything is with tackle help, or here he's pass blocking on the interior. I never see him get beat. I never see him get beat, but I don't see, here's probably his best rep as a tackle outside of his highlight film of him having pretty consistent fundamentals. And I just like this one because you see him in space. There's nobody there as the pull blocker on that play action power to block, so he goes and tries to find work. I think that awareness speaks to, again, his level of intelligence and his level of awareness on the football field to look beyond his initial task and then go find a way to help the offense. So that's all really great stuff, but there's a lot of unknown. So this is where Ross comes in. Spoke to him on the BWI Daily Edition. If you want to check that out, it's here on the YouTube channel. I'll put the link to the video in this one so you can go see it. I asked him some comments I heard where he mentioned that Jven was working with him on pass protection stuff. So if you have a former NFL offensive lineman helping you with pass protection, that's a pretty good place to start especially if you're in an offense like Wyomissing has. And Ross, a Wyomissing alum and a former Reading native, said that this is a part of the identity of who Jven is a guy that's going to go above and beyond to be ready and to be good at football.
Well, and that speaks to him as a kid. It was his idea.
Oh,
you
wow.
know, he said, Ross, do you know anybody I can work with? I would like to continue to work on pass blocking. Wyomissing runs the wing T. So they don't hardly ever pass block, primarily they're run blocking. So he just hasn't had to do it that often. I said, sure, I'd be happy to work with you on pass blocking if I get a chance, if I'm in Reading. So I was able to get to Reading to visit my mom and able to go through some stuff with him. He's a lot further along than I realized.
There you go. That's pretty good. And Ross is like I said, he's a friend of the show. He obviously knows what he's talking about. So that's a very encouraging sign to hear about a guy who is not only normally in our situations like this, I just have to say we don't have any evidence of it. We don't have any ability to see him pass block, so it's going to be a question. But if that's what Jven is doing, and he's going to be going on, I imagine he'll be going on camp circuits this year, and that's going to be a part of his progression as an athlete. I don't really have any questions about his physical ability, and then it's about how much further along, as Ross talked about there in that last clip, of how much further does he have to go to be college ready to play tackle. And this is an interesting comparison, but I kept thinking about it, and I figured out what it is about Jven Williams that reminds me of former Penn State tackle Ryan Bates. It's that they both have guard bodies. They're both 6'4", 6'3", somewhere in there, about 300 pounds, and Jven has longer arms than Ryan Bates. But Bates in the NFL has played all 5 offensive line positions. At Penn State, he came in to play guard, and through injury and circumstance, he kicked out to tackle and then stayed there the rest of his career. Jven plays 4 different spots on the Wyomissing offensive line. He's a good run blocker. You see the intelligence, just like Bates, to be able to handle that flexibility, sometimes between plays or between series where he's lining up. And the fundamentals, the quickness. Bates was a good pass blocker, and we saw that on film. Obviously, like I said, we haven't seen a lot of that of Jven, but I kept coming back to this comparison. And here's the thing. Jven is around the same size as Ryan Bates is right now in the NFL. So the talent and the ceiling and all of those skills, that's where the comparison ends. But that's what I see. A guy that could excel at guard and a guy that in college can excel at tackle, even if he does have NFL guard potential and size. So Penn State's getting a great offensive lineman. They're getting a great athlete, a great kid from what Ross says, and a very intelligent football player. It's a slam dunk. And adding on to a class full of those in the class of 2023 for offensive line coach Phil Troutwine. So with 3 guys committed to the 2 guys committed for sure the interior, another guy Anthony Donko as another tweener, as a 6'4" guy with gargantuan arm length. Penn State has the flexibility in this class to play whoever is best at tackle. And if they add more tackles, they're even in a better position. So that's kind of the context behind Jven Williams and why I think he's so key, not as just his skills and what he does on the field, but how he fits into this class. So that'll do it for T. Frank's Film Room. I'm your host, Thomas Frank Carr. Hit the like button, subscribe to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com for just $1, and you get 12 months of access. We will be back with your next T. Frank's Film Room.